The invention of cinema is anticipated in the photographic work of Etienne Jules Marey and Edward Muybridge. Then came the kinetoscope, the first continuous film motion picture viewing machine, which was invented by Thomas Edison and Laurie Dixon. It used celluloid film on a roll, which was introduced by George Eastman in 1888 for the new Kodak camera. The first projected motion pictures became available to a large audience and had a public premiere on December 28, 1895 in Paris, where the Lumiere brothers showed 10 films which lasted for about 20 minutes total. When entrepreneurs realized the potential market of the thousands of immigrants who had arrived from Southern and Central Europe, the Nickelodeon was born. But D.W. Griffith took filmmaking beyond the Nickelodeon to create the first feature film. Edward Muybridge is known for his stroboscopic stop-motion photography. In the late 19th century, this kind of work was innovative, and it proved highly influential in artists. His 11-volume compendium is comprised of over 20,000 photographs of animals and people performing various actions such as walking, running, trotting, fetching, and lifting. Here we see a horse named Annie G. cantering against a white background. Muybridge built cameras that had the quickest exposure times yet seen. This sheet was photographed with an average shutter speed of 1/600th of a second. The horse galloped past a series of tripwires. Each was connected to a camera that snapped the shot. And this technological development is significant because quick shutter speeds allows the camera to clearly capture a moving image in a fraction of a second. Just for comparison's sake, average modern digital cameras are 1/500th of a second, and the fancy cameras that you might see a photographer using on the sideline of a game is maybe 1/2000th or 1/4000th of a second in terms of shutter speed. Now, these photographs of Muybridge have influenced a great number of artists in their depictions of people and animals. For example, before Muybridge's photography, horses were depicted with highly unrealistic gaits, such as the one you might see here in the Silverhorn painting from 1880. Afterwards, of course, artists had a better idea of what motion looked like. Some of the artists which were directly influenced by his work include Marcel Duchamp, Thomas Eakins, and I am showing you here a picture, an image, his painting, which is the Fair Man Rogers, 4 in hand. And also Francis Bacon was influenced by Muybridge. And what I think is significant is that Muybridge's photos foreshadowed the invention of cinema, because he built a device that projected photographs quickly enough for the eye to perceive motion. He called the device a zoopraxiscope, and it led to the invention of the film projector. In a way, the zoopraxiscope is a little bit like the modern day GIFs that you might see on Facebook, blogs, or other websites, where a series of photographs are put together to make it look like the image is animated. But in fact, it is just a series of photographs put closely enough together where the eye can perceive motion. Auguste and Louis Lumiere came from Lyon, France, where they worked in their father's photographic factory. In 1894, they saw Edison's kinetoscope in Paris and decided to design a camera of their own. By February of the next year, they had produced a working model, which they called the cinematographe. The machine was in fact not a camera, but could be used together with a magic lantern to project the films which the brothers had taken. The films produced by the Lumiere camera would usually be about 50 seconds long. They were taken in one shot, with the camera kept fixed on a tripod, so it was looking always the same direction. The first one which was ever to be shown to an audience was an image of the workers leaving the factory in Lyon. This showing was also the first time that an audience had seen moving pictures projected onto a screen, since Edison's kinetoscope used a peep show viewer rather than a projected image. The first public screening of one of the Lumiere films was given on December 28, 1895 in Paris. This date is often taken to mark the birth of cinema. Although Edison and even Le Prince and Donisthorpe had photographed moving pictures before then, this is still the date that's kind of marked in history. After this screening, the brothers began commercial production of their camera, which was soon in demand across the world. Thus, the age of cinema had begun. Then, Nickelodeon theaters became very popular just 10 or 15 years later, and around 1910. They catered to the aspirations of the working class, and most often to women and children. These silent films were particularly accessible to working class immigrant audiences. Just 20 years after the first film was shown by the Lumiere brothers, D.W. Griffith revolutionized the use of the camera as a tool. Whereas most early films were short and shot from only one angle, Griffith engaged the audience with a variety of camera angles that we are familiar with today and are frequently used for dramatic effect today. D.W. Griffith is hailed as Hollywood's first great artistic director whose pioneering filmmaking spawned a new art form, that is the feature-length film and the modern motion picture industry, in his creation of The Birth of a Nation, 1915. At a time when two-reelers ruled the Nickelodeons by engaging the public's attention for approximately 20 minutes, The Birth of the Nation clocked in at an amazing 3 hours and 10 minutes. For film historians and students, another feature that makes his work so groundbreaking is Griffith's use of camera in his storytelling, including close-ups, night photography, and tracking shots. He transforms forever the way films are made and images are perceived. For the first time, the audience is engaged in cutaway action, where this is something we're very familiar with now, but this is basically a cutaway is where the camera leaves a scene only to pick up another and then return to the previous scene, which is still in action. Again, it's very commonplace today, but his direction that the action continues while another scene is taking place had never been done before. So to further his technique, Griffith also explored the use of close-up shots mixed with vast scenery. Thus, the wide-angled combat scenes filled with hundreds of soldiers were personalized by the painful emotions of those close-up wounded in battle. Certainly, the influence of early filmmakers and motion picture creators can be seen throughout the 20th century as well as in modern film today.